Hello, everyone, and welcome back to FaceTime with Leaders, the podcast series by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Sunny Pancholi, and today we have the privilege of speaking with a distinguished global leader whose career spans over 25 years of remarkable achievements across finance, technology, ESG, and corporate governance. Our guest, Mr. Kalyanasundaram Natarajan, known to many as Mr. Kalyan, has dedicated his career to building systems and strategies that create lasting impact for organizations and people. From driving digital transformation and global controllership to designing ESG roadmaps and integrated compliance frameworks, his journey reflects a rare combination of technical excellence, visionary leadership, and deep people focus. Mr. Kalyan has led initiatives that have shaped operations across regions such as Europe, Middle East, Africa, UK, bringing a true international perspective to modern business leadership. Mr. Kalyan, welcome to FaceTime with Leaders. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you, Sunny, for the nice welcome. I mean, the way that you described, I'm so excited to be part of this conversation. And this is a pretty good setup to have, right? You're putting spotlight on people that otherwise are regular office goers, if I were to put it that way. And calling them as FaceTime with Leaders is a phenomenal effort. So thank you for putting this together. I'm pretty happy to be here.
Looking forward to a great conversation ahead, sir.
Me too.
So, Mr. Kalyan, every extraordinary career has a beginning, those early moments that quietly shape the leaders we eventually see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so,
that is correct.
I would like to start by exploring those formative years. Could you take us back to the very start of your journey? What inspired you to pursue a career that combined finance, technology, and leadership?
See, interesting that you, when you take a jog down your memory lane, right? Things that have happened in your life and reflect on it, it's always brings us kind of a sense of pride, a smile on your face, things that we have gone through, the people that you have met. All of that becomes a lot more relevant, and you are filled with gratitude at the point in time when you are really reflecting on some of those things. So thank you for that question, and happy to walk you through some of my formative years. And if I were to just start off on a lighter note, I think I'm pretty much in the Maslow's need theory framework. Starting off with your the end state is your self-actualization. At your beginning state, you are looking for your food, shelter. That's the kind of needs that you have, your basic needs, right? So pretty much the career started off right there in terms of looking for how do I make sure that my basic needs are taken care of? How do I take care of a family? And that's pretty much what I would think most of the people start out as. Eventually growing over the years to see how you can get better at what you're doing. And the fact that you talked about different areas of work that you're looking at, some of the things, it's easier to reflect on it and say, no, I well planned for it. But in reality, that's not true. You actually are given some of those opportunities. It's just about you being in the right place and making sure that you are able to grab those opportunities, right? And the second thing is you also need to make sure that you are getting ready for such opportunities. It's not about saying something will fall on your lap, but you are also preparing yourself all the time. So that is pretty much how my early years of my career started off. When I got qualified, I was like, oh yeah, now I'm qualified. I need to get the best job. All of that was there. But reality hits you and you are pretty much looking at what comes your way and how do you make it good for yourself. And that is how the whole career started off as such. But over a period of time, I realized that you need to bring your personal self, whether it is a passion, whether it is a curiosity, or if you start doing it as anything as a job that eventually pays you, but you don't do enough for yourself, right? If you really want to develop yourself and you want to make a career out of your life, you have to invest in it. Every job, you need to make sure that you are passionate about it, you are delivering value. One of the most important things that I learned very early in my career is to make sure that you have the right set of people around you, right? What has become very, very critical in all my jobs that I've had is the kind of people that I work with, right? You can surround yourself. I mean, this is one of the sayings that one of my earlier bosses told me that you can either be a lion in a jungle or you can be a lion in the den. Which one would you want to choose? Ideally, you want to choose the lion being in a den because that's amongst the equals, right? And there is a great opportunity for you to excel because you are looking at how do I make myself better? But if you're already the king of the jungle, probably you are a little bit complacent in that scenario. So these are some of the things that you learn from different leaders very early in your career, and you should be really blessed. I mean, I'm pretty much blessed in that sense to have some phenomenal co-workers, phenomenal leaders that I've worked with, and that has shaped me into who I am today. And I'm just a sum total of all those experiences and all those wisdom that I've got from some of these people, because I don't have that many years of life. Essentially, I've absorbed as much of wisdom from all of these people. And that is pretty much where I am in terms of all things that I have done, right? So if I were to quickly summarize where my journey has been, it's bringing your own whole self, making sure that you are passionate about things, you are curious about it, you want to develop yourself, showing that personal commitment to grow, surrounding yourself with the best of the people that you can get, making sure that everything that you are doing it with utmost passion and integrity. What's been very, very, very important for me has been the integrity that you bring to your work. So these are three things that I think as the highlight of my journey till now.
Mr. Kalyan, what a great start to this conversation, and we have already set the stage by understanding your leadership philosophy.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now I would like to dive deeper into your career, the high impact decisions, global challenges, and moments where your action created transformation across industries and regions. So what I would like to ask you is, you have overseen controllership and finance operations across multiple regions, including Europe, Middle East, Africa, and the UK. How did you approach building a system that could maintain local compliance while also driving global consistency?
See, one of the things that happened very early is at the time that the whole IT revolution was happening in India, I was just getting into the work at that point in time, right? And a lot of these IT companies were wanting to set up businesses outside of India, but not all of them had that kind of the wherewithal to send everyone outside of the country. So essentially, you have a certain constraint which leads to a better choice in terms of your own career. So because of such a constraint, what happened for me was I could do a lot of things otherwise, and young professional would never get an opportunity, right? So from my perspective, some of these countries that you mentioned, I could set up some of those businesses, run those businesses, all of that purely because I had this opportunity early in my career, and there was someone who was willing to invest also, right? And that the timing of such an action also happened to be the right time. So if you look at it, you were pretty much trained in terms of all the Indian regulation, Indian ecosystem, all of that's what you educationally get to learn. The moment you cross that line and get into a corporate world, now that is either you look at it as a limitation or you look at that as your platform from which you start learning what's out there in the world. So for me, that kind of opened my eyes to think, if we have this system in India, what is the comparable system, say in Denmark, right, or in UK? So that kind of made you little like what I was saying earlier, right? It makes you a little bit curious. One, second thing is your antennas are up all the time purely because you know that this is an unknown system to you, right? For you, you need to make it now known. So there is a certain systemic process that you need to build yourself in terms of how do you learn some of the nitty-gritties of what is happening and how does this country function and things like that. So for me, generally, it's been a structured approach in terms of looking at talking to people locally. Consultants are great resources in some of those cases if you can afford them. Or that today you have Google, which is pretty much the door to the whole world. You can Google a lot of different things and learn a lot of different things. So it is about first learning, being open, learning all of those things and not judging any of those requirements based on what you already know, right? You look at it purely as the unknown and learn them better. So that's pretty much what is a starting point. Second, as I said, the consultants, some of those people like your auditors, you typically look at them as someone whom you do not want to talk to because they may get to know a lot of things, but really they are your stakeholders as well. They want the business to succeed. So how do you make partners out of some of these people, whether it is suppliers, whether it is your auditor, any of those people that you work with? How do you make them your stakeholders is very, very, very critical. The third and most critical one is to have the right set of team members along with you. I cannot stress that importance of having the right set of people along with you, right? It is never a one person's effort. It is always a team effort when it comes to most of the corporate setup. So from that perspective, you need to have the right set of people and be aligned on the right purpose together, right? And we all need to understand together that we have a common objective, right? So this is, I'm kind of filtering it down to the very, very base minimum, while I'm not getting the deep end of how do you actually create a learning system and all that. I'm just telling you from a very overall perspective in terms of how do you really break it down to the basics. And I certainly believe that when you have the basics right, the other things can be built on top of it.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mr. Kalyan. And I really appreciate the way you unpack that. You know, what stood out for me was how you frame leadership not just as managing compliance or systems, but as a balancing trust, culture, and principles across very different regions.
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, you are at the end of the day dealing with human beings, whether it is the government authorities or whether it is your customer, they are all human beings. They are doing their own businesses as well, right? So in that sense, it is understanding their culture, which is critical. Making sure that you have the connections with those individuals is absolutely critical. And that's pretty much how you are, when you're talking about a system, essentially these are parts of the system. You are also a part of the system. You are not, the fact that you think that you are creating the system is really not the right way to look at it. It is you looking at being part of the system and how do you drive that together is essentially what I think makes a lot more sense in some of these scenarios.
Rightly said, Mr. Kalyan. So moving forward, you have successfully set up and managed business units in Europe while being based in India. So could you walk us through one particular instance where cross-border execution required both strategic foresight and cultural sensitivity?
Oh, absolutely. Interesting that you asked that, right? And as I said, at the beginning of the IT boom in India, a lot of offshoring companies wanted to set up their own locations outside of India so that you could be closer to the customer, right? This brings two things. One, as a finance person, you are looking for the cost factor because India is a cost efficient thing that you are really focused in India, but at the same time, you want to set up closer to the customer also. So cost becomes a very, very critical element in some of these decisions, right? So how do you really manage the cost element is where, as a finance professional, you start off with, right? But eventually, what you start realizing is when you have sufficient revenue and you are able to really drive the growth a lot better in some of these zones, it is easier to manage the cost as well, right? So those are two things that kind of it's like a chicken and egg situation. Do you look at revenue or do you look at expense? Both of them are pretty much equal, and you really want to make sure that the focus is on both of those things, right? So one of those things that you would want to start off as a finance professional, when I started off with some of these engagement, it pretty much started with planning for getting into a new location or something like that. Eventually, it is about driving a plan, right? So you start with a financial plan, but you need to have a business plan as well, right? So you start working with different functions, different organizations, different leaders, understanding their vision for what they would want to do with that geography, right? Where do they see the business? Converting all of that into a financial model, right? And then comes once you are done with all of these things, you come to the execution part, right? Plan is only as good as what it is on a paper. When it comes to execution, there are a lot of different challenges. There are nuances that comes up. Things that you're not anticipated will change. I mean, if you have to look at the current scenario, a lot of people wouldn't have anticipated the kind of tariffs that are happening, right? That's a business challenge that you need to manage. So the agility in your plan, how do you build the agility? How do you constantly evolve through the execution mode is something that you need to understand. And that's something that you need to start building into your routine as well, right? So the other thing that you need to, like one of the things that you talked about is the cultural nuances. Interestingly, when first time I was interacting with someone in the Eastern Europe side, the way that they speak English is very different from the rest of Europe as well, right? So English, even though it is understood in most of Europe and spoken in most of Europe, it's the way the accents are very, very, very different. And as a person who's never left India or been in Europe or lived in the location, probably your accent is a little bit different for them as well, right? That's a starting point. And I mean, today we have Zoom and Teams. At the point in time that I started my career, That's pretty much a telephone call that you need to be working with. So you don't have the interaction of a facial interaction also. You actually are trying to build an image of the person right on the phone, right? So to kind of understand the person, it takes time. You need to have a lot of patience for it. At the beginning, I was like thinking, why are these people different? Why are these people so slow in the things that they are saying, and why are they acting differently, right? They would only say things that they would actually can do, right? And a lot of cases, I would like rather say things and try to make it work. It's an approach that is very slightly different, right? So in some of these things, I realized that you need to be very specific in terms of their cultural nuances as well. You need to understand that the first thing, and based on that nuance, it's like a simple thing is now in a Zoom call or in some of those things, right? Even today, when we shake our head like this, it's a very Indian way of doing things. And people are generally confused. Are you saying yes? You are saying no? What does that head shake mean? Right? To most of the people, it doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. But for someone who's used to it, it's very difficult, right? If you're not shaking your head or you're nodding your head, that means there is something which is not happening to you, and you feel like, oh, what am I doing right now? So it's both sides have to get comfortable with that in terms of understanding each other's cultural nuance, and I think that's what took me a little bit longer in terms of some of those engagements outside of the country. But eventually, you actually start seeing that what I mentioned earlier, right? In terms of the human connect is real. In every single instance, the human connect is always real. All you need to understand is the other side of the telephone. There is a human being. That person wants to do the same things that you are trying to do, get better at what they are doing, have a better career, have a better future for themselves. That's pretty much what they are trying to do, and you are trying to do the same thing. And with all of this, they would want to make sure the company that they are working for has got their interest. That's the interest that they have in their heart, right? So that is pretty much the bottom line that both sides will agree on, and eventually the plans, execution, you kind of figure it out over a period of time, and that's where your agility and individual smartness, the leadership, all of that comes into play.
Absolutely, Mr. Kalyan. And I really appreciate how you brought that story alive. What stood out was how you balanced sharp strategy with genuine cultural sensitivity. That combination isn't easy, and yet you made it sound very human and very real.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, that's the reality, right? How much ever we talk about it, it's not a movie. In reality, this is exactly what happens. I am not narrating a story which is any different from millions of people who would have gone through the same kind of experiences, right? So I think that's pretty much at the end of the day, that is the bottom line that we need to be all focused on.
Right. So you have led digital transformation and analytics initiatives at a global scale, Mr. Kalyan. In your experience, what are the key steps organizations must take to ensure that digital roadmaps deliver tangible business results?
See, the one thing I've kind of gone through and understood in all my professional life is we tend to get carried away by a lot of hype rather than the reality. Digital is real, yet there's a lot of hype around it as well, right? Today, if you look at it, AI is a reality, but yet there is a lot of hype. What do I mean by these two? Reality is use cases. You really have a certain requirement, and then based on that requirement, you're using a tool. The hype is, oh, there is AI, so let me use some AI, right? Where I may not really need AI. Why am I using it? AI is available. If I'm not using it, I'm not a cool kid. So that is pretty much where we kind of have it's important to balance out the viewpoint. From a corporate perspective, what I've realized especially is one of the most critical things is any kind of transformation should be purpose-driven. If you do not have a clear corporate strategy that is aligned with the transformation that you're looking for, most of those transformation tends to fail. They either become costly, they are untenable, or they upright fail for, I mean, they don't meet the objectives that originally they were planned for. And you're essentially chasing the next goal with newer technologies all the time, right? It becomes a never-ending story. So it is absolutely important that you understand who is the key stakeholder for your transformation. How would they feel about it more than you you understanding as to what does it bring me, right? Most of the times it's about what is the return on investment. As a finance person, I would rather look at the return on investment because it is easier for me. But every such transformation has a huge impact on employees, customers, suppliers. So many communities are getting impacted. Unless you have a very clear purpose for any of these transformation, it is extremely difficult to make it successful. So that to me is absolutely uncompromisable. You have to have a clear purpose, and that needs to be aligned with your corporate strategy, right? So those two things becomes very, very, very critical. The second thing is the question of which technology. In a lot of times, you start looking at what is the latest and let me go to the latest, because you do not want to miss out. But technology is like, this is an example that I kind of use when I'm describing to some of my team members and things like that. It's like a knife. You think about technology as a knife, right? A chef would make a beautiful dish. A murderer doesn't care. When I'm saying, let's not call a murderer, right? If it is a local butcher, he may not care, right? He doesn't care about the shape, the size, how it comes out, may not. Whereas a chef would care every bit of it. He would want to use it in like I mean, the same example you can look at it as a surgeon with someone else, because it has to be precision made from a surgeon's perspective. For someone else, it is not, right? So technology is pretty much like that. Do you want to be a chef using the knife, or do you want to be a butcher using the knife? That's the question that you want to ask every time when from technology perspective. It is a beautiful thing to utilize, and it's the right, if you find the right purpose, if you find the right technology, you will find success with transformation.
Incredible, Mr. Kalyan. And what resonated was how you kept the roadmap glued to the outcomes, not tools, and how you brought people, data, and ethics together.
Thank you.
So moving ahead and talking about ESG, that is environmental, social, and governance. And ESG practices are now at the heart of corporate strategy. So how did you approach embedding ESG principles into large, complex organizations? And what impact have you seen on both compliance and business growth?
See, before I jump into the ESG as an element, right? One of the things that I would want to very specifically talk about in the context of ESG. Let me set a context for that before I really jump into how you do that part of it, right? I think it's important to understand that ESG is not a compliance. While ESG is used as in most of the context as in compliance, it has become core to your business. The businesses that have really thrived are the ones which have made it core. And I can give you a beautiful example, right? A lot of times, what you see on the news or what you see on the media is typically things, the businesses which have failed to do either people-related action or environmental damage. Those are the companies that we get to hear. But what we do not get to hear is a lot of companies which are doing exceptionally well. If I were to just give you a kind of an anecdote, right? Volvo has a 2040 strategy which talks about how they can become 100% sustainable, right? And this is a company which makes automobiles, they make mining equipments, all kind of things that are not really environment friendly as a definition, if I were to put it that way, right? But yet their objective is to make sure that it is sustainable, right? They want to develop every single community that they are in. And when I'm saying community, it is not just about the people living around their factories. It's also about the suppliers, the entire business community as well, right? Including the shareholders, stakeholders, every one of them. These stories, we don't hear as much, right? The more visible story, if we were to talk about it, is like a L'Oreal. If you have seen some of those ads, the whole equation of fairness is something that they don't really care as much about, right? What they care about is the quality of the product. The definition of what they want to sell has changed over the years as well. Why? It is because it is relevant to people, right? So that is exactly what I think ESG can do to you if you really contextualize it from your business perspective. If it is part of your core, it makes it a lot more easier. On a different note, if you look at that as a compliance, it becomes a cost, right? So in the companies that I've worked with, thankfully, what I've always seen is the leaders understand that ESG or the environmental, social requirements are not just about meeting a certain checkbox. They are not looking for, okay, I've take this and I'm done. I've got my ranking in one of those raters and rankers, and I'm already great, right? They consistently look at how can I get better at it? How do I leave the better solution for my next generation, for the future generations, right? How do I improve the lifestyle and living of people where these products and solutions that I'm making are not just about environment friendly, they are friendly from a social perspective as well. And then what happens is these individuals or leaders are not so much focused on themselves, because at the end of the day, the governance element comes in where you start focusing too much on yourself rather than your purposes or goals, right? Your goals are a lot more important than who you are. Some of the failures that, if you look at it, are individual related at the end of the day as well. As much as we talk about people being the essence of everything that we do, they are also the essence from a failure standpoint as well, right? At the end of the day, it is one individual's greed, or it is fame or power or whatever you want to call it. So it's a very, very, very base level information I'm talking about, even in the context of ESG that you're talking about. Why it is relevant is because when we are talking about a board level, that alignment of people on the board, that ESG is not a compliance, it is about doing the right things from a business perspective. And it is what I do as a business, right? That is my business. ESG is my business, right? Everything that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be considering holistically. I'm not going to be looking at whether my shareholders are making profit, or only my employees are making profit, or the management is making their own bonuses. I'm going to be holistically considering every single community that I'm going to be impacting. What is their impact? How do I positively impact that? If you start looking at some of these things, the whole concept and the whole effort that is required from an ESG perspective will substantially shift, and you start becoming your day-to-day business. It's business as usual. So that is what I've seen in the companies that I've been associated with, and the engagements around the ESG aspects as well, where some of the companies are been doing all of these actions, whether it is environmental related friendly actions, or sustainability friendly actions, or people related actions, for years, for generations. And yet they've never went on saying, oh, I've done this great job, right? The focus right now, since it is coming from a compliance perspective, is where there's a lot of conversation happening, and it is very, very important conversation to have. But the focus should be on how you can embed it into your business.
Rightly said, Mr. Kalyan. And all right. So we have spoken in detail about governance, ESG, and global strategy. Now, for this next segment, I would like to take things in a lighter direction and let our listeners, viewers, see a more personal side of yours. So, these questions are meant to be fun and instinctive. There are no right or wrong answers to them. Please share the first thought that comes to your mind.
Having taught for so long on different things, I think there is a little bit of fun that is required as well. As you rightly said, see, at the end of the day, this conversation essentially is a long conversation. I don't think everyone is going to be as engaged. A little bit of knowing the person, you get to walk away with knowing one more additional person in your life. I think it's a fair takeaway.
Right. So let me shoot you with the first question then.
Sure.
Chai or coffee? Which one do you prefer to start your day with?
Oh, interestingly, I have my own concoction. I don't go for I'm not a coffee or a tea person. I used to be a heavily coffee tea person, but now I've got my own concoction, and age just catches up. So,
okay. A movie you have watched more than once and still enjoy every single time?
This is going to be a little bit of a difficult one for people to really say listen to what I'm going to say. I've probably watched Matrix as a movie for 60, 70 times, if I were to put it that way. Every single time, it's like an onion peel. I've seen something deeper and deeper and deeper. Today, if I were to give a personal example, right? If I were to just give you an example, when you talk about a finance person, typically you're thinking you are Neo with all those green numbers falling all over the place. Nothing like that. In reality, there is no numbers, nothing that's going on in your head. There are so many other things that happen. So Matrix it's a little bit personal, it is philosophical, it is deeper. So I pretty much enjoy, and I'm a pretty big movie buff as well. So I do watch a lot of movies.
Nice, nice. Okay, moving on to the next question. Your favorite travel destination, somewhere you go to relax and recharge?
This is interesting. So if I were to relax, I would rather relax at home. The reason is travel is a little bit strenuous these days. But otherwise, any place with water, any place that has water is my favorite place.
Okay. One hobby or activity you truly enjoy outside of work?
I mean, not so much these days, but I do used to play a lot of games, and especially cricket, as pretty much, that's a passion that most of the people in India would say that they played. As a young kid, I played a lot of cricket. So even today, I do try to, from time to time, I try to get out with my bat. I'm pretty much prepared with all my kit and all that stuff. But again, not anywhere closer to what I used to be at an early age.
All right. A favorite book or novel that you have read purely for leisure?
Okay, I am generally not a person who reads fiction, but there is one book that one of my friends recommended. This is Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. When I said Matrix, which has layers, this is another book which has layers, right? A lot of personal things that you can relate to, a lot of things that you learn from that also. I mean, I didn't never look at that book as something that's I'm going to take out any value out of it. I mean, one of the friends recommended saying, hey, here is a book. I know that you don't read fiction, but try this book. Eventually, it turned out to be a brilliant book.
Absolutely. It's a must read.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So if you could instantly learn any new language, which one would it be?
I think it will be French. And one only reason is it's a beautiful language. I mean, when I watch French movies and all that, it sounds so beautiful. Other than that, if I were to pick any of the Indian languages, I do know a little bit of South Indian languages. I would like to pick a few, which is like Merwari, Rajasthani, that kind of stuff, which I've heard but never spoken. So if I were to pick up one of those, I will definitely pick up one of those languages.
All right. A song or type of music that always lifts your mood?
Music lifts my mood, irrespective of the genre, irrespective of anything. Again, when I said movies, big reason is music as well. So I love music. I listen to every form of music, whether it is instrumental, whether it is the language that I understand, I don't understand. So, and my best pastime also I like to focus on things. When I'm focusing on things, I generally tend to sing to myself as well. So that helps. Music is pretty much part of my life.
Nice. One food item you can never say no to, no matter what?
Okay, this is going to be I love sweets. So I cannot say no to sweets. That also shows up.
Okay, and the last but not the least of the rapid fire round, if you had to describe yourself using just 3 words, what would they be?
Wow, if you have seen the interview, I've never spoken any little words, so I do use a lot of words. So that's going to be a tough one. Let me use the words that I've used already, right? Passion, curiosity. What else? 3 words. The next one would be integrity, if I were to put it that way. So 3 things that I would really look for: passion, curiosity, integrity.
Great. That was such a refreshing segment. It's always wonderful to get to know the person behind the title. It was fun, Mr. Kalyan.
So thank you for that rapid fire. It kind of helped me as well. So thank you.
All right. So getting back to the business and talking about the challenges that the industry faces. Recently there has been cases like the Genzol and Blue Smart controversy, where ESG claims were exaggerated and misrepresented, raising serious questions about transparency. So, as someone who has led ESG implementation globally, how can organizations prevent such greenwashing? And what role should leadership play in keeping ESG practices authentic?
No, absolutely. See, I kind of alluded to that in my earlier response as well. And let me kind of give you a slightly different context again in terms of what I was talking about, right? ESG is one area where you want to find the companies which are doing right more than companies which are doing not so the right things. So the Blue Smart Gensol examples are pretty good examples of companies that are not doing what needs to be done, right? At the end of the day, you want to be doing the right things from your business perspective, from your stakeholder perspective, from your, I'm saying stakeholders, suppliers, employees, every one of them, right? And for your own personal integrity. When you start compromising on personal integrity as a leader, whether in a boardroom or outside, that is when some of these challenges do happen. So that is the context of the governance. And let's talk about the other side of it. While such things can happen, what do you do in terms of the organizations that are important? See, every single organization is not serving one single person. It serves multiple lives. So it is critical for organization to survive beyond that. And that's the reason why, I mean, if I were to just go back to the basic law itself, a company is a legal person in the mind of law, right? In the eyes of the law, a company is a legal person. So that's the whole intent of making a company like that as well. So essentially, you would want to have frameworks, control environments, which drive that kind of behavior. And this, a lot of times it's said, it's shown at the top. The top is either the CEO, CXO, or the board as well. The board needs to have a voice. It cannot be simply the fact that I got a position, I listen to the CEO, he's the person, he's the founder, he drives things, so I'm happy. It is your personal reputation at stake at the end of the day, right? As a board member, it is not that individual alone who's going to fall. He's going to take you along with him or her, right? So it is very, very, very essential to understand it's your personal stake as well. Second thing, what I would call it as decision quality. You are responsible for your decision quality. If you allowed someone to make such decisions which are detrimental to the larger population, which is your employees and all the other stakeholders, that means you have let them down as well. So where is that personal integrity coming from? Where is that decision quality coming from? You have to be individually responsible as a board member. And I'm pretty much focusing on a board purely because of the tone at the top. It is the context of ESG, it is the context of governance. Every single context, it is essentially the tone at the top which sets the ball rolling. I mean, you will have brilliant ideas coming your way, but essentially, how do you align them to the goals of the organization, making sure that you are able to drive them in the right direction and also keep the broader interest of all your stakeholders, right? It's not essentially your profit making, or it's not about just serving an individual's interest. It is essentially for everyone involved, their interest is being protected. When you start realizing that, whether you are an executive member or whether you are a non-executive director, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, your purpose and your reason for being on a board is to make sure that the company doesn't fail. And when that realization happens and when you start driving the right actions, there is very little chance of the blue smart Gensol kind of cases happening. But if you have an intention of defrauding, there's very little that will happen, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you are colluding together as a board, now that is a very personal thing to happen. So it is individuals who are responsible and make sure that the larger interest of everyone involved in a corporate is getting protected. That's what would essentially avoid some of these things. And again, purely from a tactical perspective, your frameworks, your control environment, auditors, all of them are responsible in some way or the other. And you as the board, you are driving certain regular reviews. You're not just depending on someone giving you a bunch of board documents and you're just going to that and saying, okay, I'm happy I got this document. Essentially challenging, questioning, bringing in some thought leadership into the conversation, making sure that people are considering different risks. All of that becomes essential as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mr. Kalyan. Great. So this brings us to the last question of the podcast, and here it is. You have been closely associated with Directors Institute, which brings together leaders from diverse industries to strengthen governance practices. So what am I here asking you is, could you share what inspired you to join the Institute and how this experience has shaped your perspective as a leader and board member?
See, the first thing is, right, when you join someone in institute, you're basically doing a little bit of research on your own, right? You don't have a clear idea of what exactly you are getting into, and you would know a little bit of ideas. You would want to do your initial research. That's exactly what I did. I did my initial research, understood differences, what exactly each one is offering. In the market where everyone is offering a similar kind of thing, what I realized is a professional environment is what the Directors Institute creates. The connect with your, I don't know whether you call it the students, your network, whatever you want to call them, right? That connect, I think, was very, 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 very clear, very, very well laid out at the very beginning as well. The second thing I realized is the set of people I was not expecting the kind of people that I will connect with. I just thought, okay, this is some education, online education, just go through it and you're done and you're doing your things on own. Not really. It helped connect a lot of different people. It gets you to share perspectives which are not essentially from your own background. Again, as I said, your background is restricted to a certain area. Your experiences are restricted. How do you broaden that? Is such platforms where you get to connect with different set of people, different set of experiences, leaders from the around the world. Some of the events that you guys have done, it's a brilliant thing to do, right? So it's very important to have that as part of your own growth journey as well. And I realized that what I probably did not anticipate enough, but very thankful that I eventually got it, is that kind of community that has been built, right? So from my perspective, that's very, very, very critical. And that is essentially what I think is also today missing as an environment from an Indian board perspective. Only when it's a very small knit community, which is very tight community as well. To get into that is what all of us are aspiring at the end of the day. And you want to make sure that you are adding value as well. But it is essential to find the right path and take the people along with you. And this is essentially what Directors Institute has done to create that platform where all of us can connect. We share thoughts, we share ideas, we're connected on LinkedIn, all that thanks to the Directors Institute. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known most of these people anyways. So that's probably where I think the maximum value is that's where I got my maximum value.
Great to hear that, Mr. Kalyan. And what really stood out was how you turned governance from a technical checkbox into something deeply human, about trust, about foresight, and about leadership.
Thank you. And every word that you said, I do hear human behind that, right? Whether it is governance, everything, culture, whether you talk about every one of those elements has the people behind it. And that's pretty much what makes or breaks it. So thank you for that.
Rightly said, Mr. Kalyan. And thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your remarkable journey with us. From leading global finance and ESG initiatives to building governance frameworks across multiple countries, your insights today have given me and our listeners a deeper understanding of what it truly takes to lead with integrity and vision in a rapidly changing world. And what stood out most was how you emphasize the importance of authenticity, whether it's in ESG practices, compliance, or people leadership. These lessons are invaluable for anyone navigating the complexities of modern businesses. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sunny, for this conversation. I really enjoyed it. The questions were very meaningful, and that's why we could have a very good conversation. So thank you for having an engaging conversation.
And to our listeners, I hope today's episode offered not just strategies and perspectives, but also inspiration to lead with purpose and create a lasting impact in your own organizations. This has been FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm Sunny Pancholi. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep leading with integrity. Thank you so much.